3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Happy TV's podcast.
Raw, brazen, and comical. This is the ultimate podcast. I-O-H-O, in our humble opinion.
Hey, shut up lah!
Hi, everybody.
Namaste.
Welcome to another edition of In Our Humble Opinion. Okay, we have a lot to talk about today, okay, but I think we should kick it off with something quite strange and wonderful and unexpected. Okay, there's this video that some of you may not have seen, okay, and then we'll talk about it in a moment. Have a look.
Not very happy leh. Very good. Well done, everybody. Well done.
It's wonderful video.
Okay.
Wonderful.
It is.
That's nice to see.
I will be dancing too. I will be so dancing. It's so nice to see. So the celebratory mood is in response to the fact that they project that by the end of May, 20,000 of our migrant workers will be released from their quarantine areas, right? And able to go back to work, go back to their normal lives. So that's amazing news. Okay, the figures have been really high, right? And they're starting to drop, and that's wonderful, right? So much recovery. You know, is this what was expected, Gilbert? You know, is it faster than expected, you think?
No, I think that the quarantine period was fully borne out. And it's also important to note, because I've been reading again, you know, as usual, unfortunately, online, you have a lot of negative comments by very boleao Singaporeans who are saying, wow, you know, so dangerous for us now. You're releasing them. Don't care about us. And, you know, they are testing them twice to make sure they're negative. Each person has been tested twice to make sure they're negative. You know, we should definitely be celebrating this. This is the way it has to be, and the way it should be. Yeah. And again, you know, I mean, you know, come on, Singaporeans, you know, look at the positive side of this. These are human beings. These are people who are doing essential work for us. You know, they've gone through a lot already and suffered quite a bit. So, you know, celebrate their release. Do not throw stones at this situation. I
just want to say that, you see, with every worker, there is an extended family. With every worker, there is a mother, there is a wife, there is a daughter, there are children. So we forget when we keep saying migrant worker that with every worker released, there is so much joy. There's a ripple effect to all these other families, the whole family that is involved, which we can't, the pain they must have gone through, we cannot quantify. And the same thing with the celebration or the relief this families, wherever they are, they must be feeling. We can't quantify. And it's a very thankful moment, a moment we can rejoice in, that the country, the nation helped so that they have now been cured and they can be released. So it reflects on us as a society too.
I think it's also
doing good. We are doing good.
And I think it's great that they were paid throughout this period too, because that's so important. Something we can't take for granted, because in many countries, these migrant workers or other workers who are suspended and quarantined don't get paid. And then, you know, it's horrifying. On top of the illness and the fear, you have no paycheck and no way to feed your family. So, you know, good thing in Singapore, they were being paid still. So, you know, that's a really positive thing.
Absolutely.
We've talked about the migrant worker situation from so many different perspectives, right? You know, over the last couple of weeks, you know, and I think there's a lot of lessons, you know, that this particular topic has made us confront, right? Many things that we want to learn, you know, and one of them clearly is that we all have a burden to be a lot more empathetic be a lot more concerned, to be a lot more aware of what's happening as they come here and sacrifice their time and they'll risk their lives to build our nation? Are we even looking at them, thinking about them, sparing a thought for them and their families, as Daisy pointed out? And we've been given the chance to do better, right? And I hope that when all this is over and we go back to normal, this is one of the things that does not go back to normal, right?
Yes.
We find a new way to include them in our lives,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And not say, please live far away from my neighborhood and please don't come in and, I think we have to change our thinking from the ground up, right? So yeah, we're invited to do that, Sorry, Chris, I interrupted you.
No worries. I'm going to be brutal here. This is Singapore. This is not the deep south of the US, where people walk around, and some people walk around with white bed sheets over them with this thing called KKK.
Oh dear.
This is Singapore. The moment we start thinking, and even in our minds, our hearts, and our households, that people ought to be segregated, that's dangerous. This is where we become something that we should never be. So yeah, I'm going to be brutal about that. This is how I want to close that loop.
Correct.
Love should exist, even on a nationwide scale. It regardless of what you think of them, and all that. At the end of the day, the bottom line is that they're people.
Yeah.
We cannot
I think
see.
that, part of the issue here, which I've observed, is that for many Singaporeans, maybe too big a number, and there should not be any, there's a very much us versus them mentality. And that we're Singaporeans, and then they segregate, and there's a hierarchy almost of foreigners, bad, and then new citizens, bad, and those of us who are true blue Singaporeans, good. That's nonsense. People are people. There is no morality ascribed to one group or the other. And if you want to talk about new citizens being bad and old Singaporeans being good, I come from a 5th generation Peranakan family. It's been in Singapore for 5 generations. Does that make me better than the Singaporeans who's a 2nd generation? No, it doesn't. It's just nonsense, So I think we need to really get rid of this mentality, which I find to be too prevalent. And when we go back, part of the irony here I've seen is that people who used to be very xenophobic and who actually still are using the migrant workers as ammunition to attack the government, to attack institutions, to score political points. They don't have the welfare of the workers at heart at all. And when this ends, they will go back again to wanting to keep those workers out of the way, you see.
That's what I'm afraid of, right? Yes, I'm so afraid of that.
Guys, don't be afraid from now. Actually, we did see a very profound change in our nation. When it started, what happened with the migrants, and then the realization that we should not be we should not talk to them like this and send them off to Blanga or wherever. They realized, and a lot of people have come together. Look at the amount of donations that are pouring in. Look at that in the ministry with people. People are coming together, rallying together. So let's have hope. Let's just go with this positive feeling for now and not start thinking about what's going to happen later. Please.
I think that there's a great point. I think that sometimes what happens is that a few disgruntled voices online can be amplified and make it seem as if they are a much bigger group than they actually are. So we have to be careful about that too. I have been very heartened by the outpouring of donations to the migrant workers. There were phone cards donated, food, or just cash donations to them. I think that's the good side of Singapore.
We are talking about donations, and so I'm just thinking about all those people who have silently donated. It comes to mind. Last week, I saw an article in our newspaper talking about a millionaire who has donated 1,000 meals. And so it's just I started thinking, I said, do we even need to bring this up in a newspaper? Do we even need to, where is this line that if you donate 1,000 meals, you come in the newspaper? And what about all those people who are silently donating? I just want to share with you. You all must be having so many stories. So you have my yoga teacher, for instance, who doesn't take payment for her classes and says, you know what? you pay directly to Beyond Services. The young lad, Arman, who was sitting in camp, and on his birthday, he realized this birthday, no gifts, no presents. This birthday is going to be about giving. And he started a campaign on Instagram. He was aiming for $1,000. He managed 3,005, all silently. So my question is, at times like this, philanthropy is put under a lens. And that's the time we need to question and say, should it be used as a public relation tool to bring oneself in the forefront? Because then that undermines all those silent people who are...
When you give alms, keep it a secret. It is between you and your God.
Agree.
Okay? There is no need to blow your trumpet about, I've given this, I've given that. And even if, maybe perhaps these people who've given, the people who are wealthy, who've been advertised, so to speak, quote unquote, by mainstream media, maybe it wasn't their idea to let mainstream media know about it. It was maybe mainstream media discovered about it, but they found that's a story to write.
How did this?
But there are enough stories that you can write. It shouldn't, see, you don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth. Never. Everybody is doing their bit.
You don't give a what? Sorry, can you repeat that again? You don't want to give a gift horse?
No,
Sorry?
you don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth. I think I got to teach you guys all these old, idioms that we used to have.
Daisy, I'm very familiar with that.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. But you don't look at it in the mouth and say, you donated, I don't want your money. No,
I learned something new today from Daisy Irani. Gift horse in the
Young people, go and Google it. Google it. It's an idiom.
But what I'm trying to say is there a line where you come in a newspaper if you donate a certain amount of money?
No.
Don't. Because I appreciate, like you correctly said, all those silent donors. Yeah. I mean, it's boring. So we as a nation reflect that. So we are.
I think it's also important, though, Daisy. I think it's also important that there be publicity in some way so that it inspires other people to also give. Yeah. So it's not up to the person who's doing the giving to go and sound their own trumpet, but there needs to be examples of this.
Yeah.
There is this whole thing about the narcissistic sort of giving. I just read today, in fact, about these two influencers who videoed themselves giving $500 to a homeless person and put it on their Instagram.
So what was the reaction?
That's appalling. That is really horrible.
Yeah.
But
hold your tongue, Chris. Don't say anything.
Share with us, what was the reaction of people who watched that Instagram?
It's been pretty negative so far, I think.
So people are realizing, people are learning.
Yes. People don't fall for that.
Yeah.
Was that cotton camera?
Yeah. It was very clear.
I remember we're also a podcast.
Sick, okay.
No. Remember, we're also a podcast.
Yeah. Gilbert, can you describe what I just done?
No, you can make a sound.
I'm going to induce puking. That was what I was trying to do, inducing puking.
But make a
come
sound.
on, you're influencers. So what? Do you need to advertise that you're giving away money?
Yeah, no. That's odious and despicable.
It is, absolutely. Yeah.
No, to them it was an investment of $500 to get a certain amount of content.
Investment,
right? That post could have been worth thousands to them. So that was just a scam. It's just a scam. They're profiting off charity.
Yeah. So it's despicable.
Give quietly.
Yeah. And they had the little yellow minions around them too, probably, right?
That's what Jesus said. Yep.
Yeah.
Bring me back to being nice, okay? Yeah.
Okay, we are bringing you back to being nice.
Okay.
Look into my eyes. Look into my eyes.
Yes, Madam Daisy.
So what Daisy is doing there, okay, is that she's giving you a massage, Chris.
Oh, do that again, please.
Virtual massage.
Gilbert, join in massage. Okay,
Chris.
Here you go.
Oh,
it feels so good.
Yeah.
I tell you, the CB thing is driving us all nuts, right? Okay.
Yes.
And it just seems to me that all of a sudden I am the correspondent for these sort of news.
Yeah,
Vice correspondent.
Well, thanks. Yeah. I don't know why. Is it the face or what?
Weren't you undercover? No.
Well, undercover what? You mean on the cop side or the other side? Neither.
Both sides.
Do
Okay.
not be fooled by this cheeky-looking face, but never mind. Now, there have been a spate of raids by the cops, and these raids were for vice-related activities, and they actually arrested 30 women, and along with them, there were 19 men. And these raids were conducted in HDB flats, condos even, massage parlors, that's expected, and even a hotel. So
Right.
they were each fined $300 because they left their residences
Yeah.
to go to these places for a non-essential activity. I don't know why it's okay. Never mind, essential or not.
They
That's
probably-
subject. It's relative. Okay, never mind.
Yes, they
but
probably
it is.
felt it was very essential. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they did. And amongst the men, these 19 guys that were arrested, there was an 85-year-old dude who was also caught. I mean, first of all, I give the
For
man,
you, uncle.
yeah, full marks at 85, and he still thinks that this is essential.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And I really give it to the
Aging well.
dude. Oh, hell
Aging
yeah.
well. Aging
Yes.
well.
Yeah, you got to find out his secret, yeah. But he got caught, and he got fined, and God knows what else is going to happen because nothing else is reported about that. But with
Was
that,
he at least wearing a mask?
I don't know. To get yourself involved in this sort of non-essential activity that's essential to them, does he need to cover
I think
up?
Look,
you can't do this thing,
Chris.
but you can wear PPE, right?
look, Chris,
Oh gosh,
you're
breathe.
talking about
You
this.
can't breathe, when you're doing or whatever. Okay.
All right, Chris. I want to just say
Strenuous
something. You talked
Yes.
about this 85-year-old man and how much you admire what he's doing, right? That he's 85. I just want to let you know something that it's especially for people of that age. I need to talk on behalf of those people who are in their 80s and what it means to people who are older. These
Yep.
months of CB. It's like,
Ah.
oh my God, every day passing is you're losing a part of your life.
Yeah.
Every day is, taking away your travels or being with your loved ones or you can't do things that you want to do. And you might be actually thinking, will I get another chance? Will there be another tomorrow? What am I doing locked up in the house? Man, I need to be out there and get what I want. And so, hey, for them, life is so precious, especially at that. And if that was on his bucket list, going for that excursion was on his bucket list, it was not the fine of social distancing or no social distancing.
At 85, I want his damn bucket.
Before it's on his bucket list, he completed it. Well done. That's all.
We have to ask this guy. You can get him on the show and not producers. You get this guy on the show and just need to ask him, have you been taking the blue pill? Because if not, we want to shake your hand, man.
Maybe not shaking the hand, but yeah, high five.
Okay, virtually shaking hands. Virtually,
Done.
yeah.
Virtual.
Yes, virtual.
Everything is
Yeah.
virtual, just like our massage.
But it does highlight something though that I think hadn't crossed my mind at all until this news popped up, right? That there is another industry, right, and another group of workers who have been kind of, I don't know, not talked about and forgotten about, right? Because we do have legal sex workers in Singapore,
Yes.
right, providing a service, and are they being looked after at a time like this? I assume they can't work, right, and they can't work from home, definitely. So who's helping them? They've got families to feed as well.
John, you
Right.
bring up a very, very, very important topic as you bring up the sex workers. Because you see, in Singapore, I think they are even maybe more marginalized and discriminated against than maybe even the migrant workers. That's because when you use the word sex worker, it's also a deep moral judgment that you're making. When you use the word sex worker. Now, I had an opportunity to talk to Vanessa Ho, who is actually leading this NGO called Project X. And they are primarily the people who are working to aid these sex workers. So
okay.
there are three types, like you correctly said. They are put into three areas: the Singaporean sex workers, the migrant sex workers who are here on official passes, and the foreign workers who come on tourist visas or whatever.
Okay.
Now, what is ironical is that, they closed the bars, they closed the cafes. Of course, there was a lot of loss of income for the workers. Having said that, the migrant workers, the Singaporeans and the migrant workers, they can claim relief from the government. But the challenge is that they don't have any invoices to show loss of income. How are they going to prove that this was my income and now it's gone down by 30%? Please give me relief. That's one of the very, very important challenges that they have. For the migrant workers, a lot of them hopefully managed to go back before the CB was announced. But there are those who are caught in the net who can't leave because there are no flights and they have to be taken care of.
I'm curious. I'm curious, Daisy. You know, are we certain that migrant workers could actually be legal?
No, in the sense,
plowing the strait legally? Is
no,
that allowed for?
You see, what happens is whether they are themselves sex workers or whether you're in a salon or whether you're, in a bar or the point is that the bars are closed. And if there was any income that you got from other areas, how are you going to be able to show it? And I think very critical is that with all these donations that have been coming across, they are the ones that fall through the net. Because again, it's connected when I'm giving, it's connected to a moral conscience. And there is a judgment being made that, oh, really? Do I need to give sex workers my donation? Having said that, just like you talked about the migrant workers, each one of them is doing this for their families. Now, if you'll bear with me, guys, I just want to read a message sent by Vanessa. I was so happy because we want to reach out to this group that is being marginalized or discriminated. We do our bit for everybody. We don't discriminate about who we want to give to. So she says, I think I want listeners to know that beyond all the moralizing about sex workers, one thing is true, that all of this they do to support their families. We are running an emergency safety net program and already have 30 applicants so far. One thing that ties everyone together is that they earn not for themselves, but for their parents, their grandparents, their children. And when they lose their income, all these people go hungry. And that's why we started our program to alleviate some of their stresses. So if you want to donate, please go to our website, http://theprojectx.org. Please donate. So their project is, I'm just putting this in because we are talking about all this giving and,
Well, I suppose for society to be able to rise to challenge. Because as you said, I think this is prevalent in almost all societies, that sex workers are sort of looked upon with a certain amount of, lack of a better term, forgive me, disdain. Yeah.
But Chris, I just want to, sorry to interrupt, but I just need to tell you, because you mentioned other countries, that places like Canada, if you read about it, you realize that the government itself is in a dilemma, is in a quandary. Because there's this very thin line about what is legitimate, what is not, what is legal for prostitution, what is not. Now, how does a government set about a policy where they're actually giving aid or helping those who are doing this illegally?
I don't
you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I know. I think it's going to be a bit far-fetched for any government to try to help those who are doing it illegally, because they're illegally here to begin with, or doing an activity that's completely illegal. But let's talk about the legal ones, because I do believe there is a sort of a tracking system for people in the sex trade that's doing it legally, right? Like for instance, they have to go for HIV and STD tests every month or every week or something like that.
Regularly
I'm pretty sure.
checked.
Yeah,
they have passes. They are all registered. Yeah.
So there's a sort of a role of that
workers.
already.
Yeah, so
Like a-
so there is actually a possibility of taking care of them like you take care of any other industry.
But
Because they
but for
have
charity,
foremen and bosses and all that they report to.
but for example, quote unquote, for again, lack of a better term, forgive me, charity towards the legal sex workers. Let's begin with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like I was saying just now that I suppose society has got to change its perception, and our own inner values have got to be risen in order for us to accept people of all sorts and from all walks of life and those who need help. You know, for communities to step forward to say, we forgot about them, they fell through the net, as you said. Let's do something about this. You know, and I think you're right, Daisy. We should never, everyone's human, right?
Yeah.
But how is that going to happen? You know, society must see a real big shining light for us to go.
Okay, Chris, all right. Let's separate the two, okay? On the one hand, you got the big societal issue, whether society will accept these people enough for governments to be able to do something and all that. I'm less interested in that because that one, you can wait a long time. It's not going to happen.
I know.
All demoralizing.
Yeah.
What's more important is how do we help these people right now and, you know, in practical ways. And again, I would like to say that it shouldn't always be government because sometimes governments are constrained. Those people who are compassionate and kind want to help these can go to an organization like Project X. Yeah. And if you feel like, okay, I don't want to give money to them, maybe you can donate canned goods or food for them to be able to give to their kids, you know. You know, this is an issue that if you actually study it, no woman really, or man for that matter, because in other countries, there are male prostitutes as well, does this because they want to really. They do it because they have to, you know, a lot of cases. And they're already in a difficult position. How much more so in a time like this when, you know, the economy is in a tailspin and people are in other occupations are having difficulty, how much more so for these people? So there are ways that people can help and by reaching out to them now. The bigger issue, I think, is going to be a while before, you know, it's been around for it's the oldest occupation in the world. And
Sure. That's the reason why I'm saying that, you know, we already have Project X. And if Project X has reached out to Daisy, you know, as well, right? Obviously, they're not getting enough support. So community has got to see things from a perspective that, you know, these people are, you're right, Gilbert. They didn't get into this profession because they wanted to. Yeah. They got into it because they had to, right? So what I'm saying here is that let people realize that, look, come on, look beyond your own self-righteousness or righteousness, which however you want to see it, or your own values, and look at the deeper value and the meaning that everyone's human and everyone have their own challenges. So if we can help, we just reach out and help.
You know, you
without having any blinkers around us.
Yeah, but I think you will have that one group there, the moralists, who will never, okay? Yeah. So I'm not even talking about them. I think that there are other people out there who are more neutral about this issue and may not be aware, have not even thought, like I myself never thought, you know, okay,
exactly, you know,
this is a group that's now having difficulty. Yeah. So maybe I would speak to that group out there, you know, for this group over here who's totally no way in hell, you know, fire and brimstone. Okay, fine. You know, you don't have to, you can shut off this segment. But to the other people out there who are more neutral about this and who may not be aware that there is a group out there that needs help. And these are the sex workers in Singapore.
Okay, so let's do this. We have this platform now, right? So I'm going to look right into the camera and I'm going to say this, coming from all of us. I think I can speak for every one of my friends here. All viewers and listeners, if you are listening and watching the show, okay, there are sex workers out there that really have nothing. And there is a group called Project X. So let's find in our hearts to try and see what we can do about this quietly, no problem. So go find out about Project X and let's help people out.
Thank you so much. But I also want to end on a bit of a happier note where sex workers are concerned. It's a bit, you know, because I was just reading that sociologists are saying that because of this lockdown, there is a lot of pent-up sexual energy, which is going to be released once the lockdown is over. So, hey, there is, again, every dark cloud has got that Silver lining. So if you hang in there might be a bonanza by the end of it, because all this.
Well, aren't they already predicting it's going to be,
It's not only going to be 85-year-old men.
Bonanza! Wow!
Okay.
But aren't they already predicting that there's going to be a lot of COVID babies in 9 months' time because of this? You know, that would help Singapore's birth rate. You know, Singapore has had a declining birth rate for a very long time.
So
And
wonderful, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but not coming out of these places, yeah.
Many silver linings.
Lots
okay?
of many silver.
No, I'm talking about at home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, at
Exactly.
home, I would hope to think that most of these households will be having activity going on. And so we
Yeah,
have
so
more
that's why they say
babies.
there might be a baby boom in 9 months.
Yes, oh God. That's so lovely to hear. At
Good,
least to help the government and say, we've spent all this money, it's not in vain. Something good is going to come out of it, and we are going to benefit.
And loads of baby bonuses being paid out.
Yeah.
And we are getting bonus in return for that.
Yeah.
More people to pay.
Well, hopefully we'll see a boom in our population when it comes to new baby
Desperately
births.
needed. Desperately needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
Maybe the government needs to start streaming some inspiring content for couples who need some spark in their lives.
Yeah.
Yes. But what about
Stop
all
watching documentaries. Here's something to
Chris, you're going to talk to
start
us
the
about
engine
other-
running. Go.
other sparks that are going on.
Other sparks, the other sparks has been going on. Basically, would be what's been sparking off certain issues with food delivery guys. And there's a story that someone was complaining. This lady was complaining on a Facebook post. Well, actually, no. She was expressing her gratefulness. I beg your pardon. Yeah, for her Grab delivery driver for waiting over 2 hours to get her meal on Mother's Day. Chris, you're so evil. I apologize. So she was, I say again, expressing her gratitude to a delivery guy. He waited 2 hours, get her meal on Mother's Day, and the delivery guy was very calm and understanding throughout this entire waiting period. You know, although he only made less than $10 for the time he waited. So the thing is that kudos to this lady for praising this guy. You know, and quite frankly, I love these guys. I get delivery guys coming almost every day. I mean, if not for food, it's for more often than not, it's for stuff my wife and I order online. You know, and there was this guy, and we just tell you about this story. He comes. I've been seeing him every week. You know, once, twice a week, and it's always the same guy. So when he came around, he's always sweating, and he's looking tired, and he's always polite and smiley. So we asked him, listen, man, can I get you a drink? Immediately he said, yes, please. You know, and I say, okay, I don't have, and it's true, I don't have any soft drinks, but can I offer you a glass of ice water? So he took it and he was gulping it away and he was absolutely exhausted. Then, you know, he said to us, God bless you. You know, I'm not bragging about this, please, just because we got the show, yeah? I'm just saying this is truly what happened. And he says, I remember you guys, and I even remember your names now, you know, but thank you for the drink. And I really think we need to be really more understanding with our delivery people, because he said to me, I've got to go next door to the next condo now, then I'm going to go to the next condo after that one, and it's just going to be nonstop, you know, and it is so tiring. So, you know, yeah, I think we have got to be more. There's got to be more gratitude towards these guys. Yeah.
I mean, there's a mismatch out there, right, between the boom that some of the delivery, the food services are experiencing, right, because there's such a huge volume of orders, you know, so the kitchens are busy and their staff are busy, and that's good. I'm glad that they're doing well, but is the system taking care of the ones in between who are actually helping them to do well? You know, are they being told how long they have to wait? To be spending 2 hours for one order is really terrible. It's really terrible because
yeah, it's terrible. I know, but I just want to speak on behalf of F&B owners.
Yeah.
Because I know how it is. I've been through it. For a while. So I can tell you, once the circuit breaker thing started, you know, in F&B, there's this thing called COG and COF. You have cost of goods and cost of food, right? even if you own a bar, and if you were to have on your drinks menu, you've got a cocktail. You know how in the back end, when people work out how much they should charge the customers, they have to even calculate the volume of water and sugar water you use, and you got to really what's the word for it? Everything comes down to the dollars and cents and to every single cent, right? The moment you stop, if you're a dining in place and you don't have covers coming in, you know how many covers you need in order to cover up your COF and COG through your prices, in your menu prices or your drinks prices. Yeah. The moment they will shut for covers coming in, it is literally throwing a spanner in the works.
Yeah.
So the amount of staff you hire, you already have on hand, are they too many? Too few? Right? And now we need to churn out the food quickly because the orders are overwhelming, but we need to meet those orders, otherwise we can't pay rent.
Yeah.
And we can't pay cost of goods and cost of food. Then they have to worry about wastage as well, right? So it's a lot of things here that's in play. I don't blame these guys, because most kitchens, even if you got one where your cover is like 50 packs, 80 packs, you have probably on average 2 guys behind the stove, 2 cooks in the kitchen, yeah. And imagine these 2 guys running at maybe 50, 60 packs in your place at any one given time. But this is now likely worse because you got to pack it, and it's a different thing. Right? And then you probably have to get so many orders coming in that, it's just going to go haywire.
Yeah.
Right? So really, I think it's no one's fault here. No one is to be blamed.
I question that.
For the waiting time and all that.
No. The point now is the waiting time is not avoidable. Definitely, right? Yeah. Because they're struggling hard to adjust from being dining in places to pure takeout places, and they probably released their waiting staff, so they're working on a skeleton staff who have to do everything, including keep the premises clean and do all that as well, right? So there's a lot to do, and definitely waiting times will be unpredictable, right? The question is, there is now another industry in between that has risen to the fore, right? The delivery industry that come with apps and companies, large companies that are all taking commission and earning from this. But we've been talking about the poor drivers at the bottom of that rung, who are wasting their time for $10, right? Is there a way that the companies running this in-between intermediary industry can help, at a time like this, to improve their systems, to alert these drivers a little bit? Why are they waiting 2 hours? If we know it's a 2-hour order, then he shouldn't be sitting there for 2 hours. He shouldn't. He could have done other orders and come back.
Let me offer you something which I observed. Okay, I was at a restaurant in Holland Village not too long ago. I went to order food, and I saw a delivery guy arrive from one of the delivery services, and he asked the waiter. He said, order number whatever, here to pick up. And the guy working in the restaurant said, "Don't have your order, leh?" And then he had to press a button which would show all the orders that comes in. And he had not pressed that button. So when he pressed that button, he says, your order just came in. And the delivery guy said, come on, you didn't refresh. If you refresh, you would know the order came in. And then he told me, he said, my customer is calling to complain, saying her food has not arrived. I've been waiting for them, and they are the ones who are screwing up, basically, So this is the problem, because in the time that I stood there and waited, I saw other delivery people arriving, and the restaurant was so backlogged because one person at the restaurant hadn't pressed the refresh to check the orders that were coming in. So from the point of view of the consumer, I ordered my food at 6 p.m. 7 p.m., I expect it should arrive. At 7 p.m., when the delivery guy went to the restaurant had only just pressed the button to get the order there. So, these kinds of things happen. And in that evening, I saw 6 delivery guys waiting outside, all cursing and swearing. Tempers were frayed. The restaurant guy then said, "You're not happy? You go away. Don't need your business," basically, So that was really unpleasant, but it was also eye-opening for me to see that this is one of the reasons why there's a screw up, basically. is because technology is not being followed the way it
These
should
are
be.
new processes. These are new processes people have yet to get used to.
Yes. Yes.
And it doesn't take a month, I mean, honestly speaking, if you're working in an F&B side, right, you're so used to serving physical customers at your place. And now, and you learn how to use your point of sale system, your cash registers and all that. You learn how to use your ordering system and all that via iPad and all. It's one thing. But now you're getting orders like this, and then you have to deal with delivery guys. It's also not easy. Even if it's, there's been a month plus, and this has been going on with technology. For me, even, let me tell you something. I think it's going to take about 3 months for me to get used to something like that. So I think, as I said,
you're running a business. You just need to do it. It's not rocket science, basically. I think that the person who suffers the most is the delivery person, because they're the end point. If the restaurant screws up, no one's really going to call the restaurant up to yell at the restaurant. You're going to yell at the person.
Yeah, and everyone at the restaurant is on salary.
But for me, in my humble opinion, I'm not going to be blaming anybody, because I can tell you that it's not easy. The F&B business is one of the toughest damn businesses to run.
We're not here to blame anybody, but we're here to point out where the lapses exist, right? And where we can do better.
But
the bottom line really is that for all of us who do get food delivered, be kind to your delivery person and please tip.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, don't complain if you have to wait, right?
But I just want to say just exactly like what Gilbert said, and he's absolutely right. It is a business, and people will learn, and the whole industry is now evolving very, very rapidly, and delivery is here to stay in a big way.
Okay.
So I think if it is business, however difficult it is, moving forward, people will tweak it and work on it till the flow is smooth enough so everybody can make money. I mean,
correct.
Everybody,
And that's why consumers have got to be more patient, right? Because these, again, as we've been talking every episode so far, these are extraordinary times, right? So patience is required on every end. Regardless of whether one presses the refresh button, whether or not this and that, as a business.
Patience is one thing, but again, restaurants and businesses cannot have incompetent staff either. I think they need to train and make sure.
That's fair.
Eventually you're going to see a lot of staff, competent or otherwise, who will lose their positions. Because a lot of outlets will close.
Yes, but part of the problem, really, I understand it, because I have friends who own restaurants as well, is we have a labor shortage in Singapore. The service line in restaurants is not a job that many Singaporeans want to go into.
Yeah.
And when the government started to cut back on S-Pass visas, they specifically targeted the service industry because they wanted more Singaporeans to go into the service industry. I find it to be so bizarre because, that is again not a line that most Singaporeans really want to go into. Restaurants have great difficulty staffing their establishments, all right? Yeah. So the people who are working there tend to be disgruntled in some ways, and unhappy, overworked and stressed. So this is what's going to happen. I think that's part of the equation here. It's just a labor shortage in Singapore. So
there are systemic issues here, and again, this pandemic is a really good time to look at the things that have been normal and that we've been overlooking or allowing to pass and say, this is a good time to change because we have been disrupted. And if we resume with the same problems and lapses as before, then we have totally wasted a lesson from life.
And also, I think that the bottom line also is that for the end consumers like ourselves, it's just to be kinder and not expect things to be so, quick as they had been at one point. And especially to the delivery guys, who I really feel
I just want to share that, we had a couple of occasions in the last month, and there was a celebration, my son's anniversary, and there was a birthday, and what we did was we had all the celebrations on Zoom, which is what weddings and parties and everything on Zoom. And what we did was we had 3 families all turning on to Zoom at the same time. And we timed the food in such a way that the caterer sent the food exactly at 7:30 to each of the houses to each of the apartments that the people were turning in to celebrate. And it was amazing. everything went like clockwork. So I'm on Zoom and I'm like, ding dong. Oh, that's, my deliveries come. And on the other side, my son goes, oh, mom, oh, our deliveries come. And then we're actually sitting together with all the food and saying, oh, wow, look at the hors d'oeuvre. Oh, look at these. Oh, this is so tasty. Oh, thank you. Da, 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 da. And we're having all the dinner together. And that was thanks to the restaurant and the delivery guys who came exactly on time and made this possible for us. So yeah, I think there will be teething problems, and customers should be kind. But I was more than happy because they made all our celebrations perfect. Cheers.
Unfortunately, I don't think that's the norm. I think that, obviously there's a lot of... otherwise, we would have
my experience.
Fights, and the fights really are between the very stressed out and unhappy restaurant workers and the stressed out and unhappy delivery people, because they're both under pressure, So,
and on that note, since you mentioned the word fights, it brings this to mind. There were 4 pretty violent attacks in one day, on the 10th of May. It's a 21-year-old man who was arrested in relation to a case of voluntarily causing hurt with a dangerous weapon. There was a 26-year-old man who was sitting in a pool of blood, right? And this was recently shared also online. Earlier that morning, a group of 10 youths who were involved in a brawl at People's Park condominium, and 2 of them were armed with knives. A 19-year-old guy was injured. 3 people were arrested. I think more have been arrested over the last couple of days over this particular incident. And before that, 2 men were involved in an assault at Choa Chu Kang Cemetery and left the man with multiple injuries, including a deformed left arm, puncture wounds on both legs, and wounds on his head. Now, not just that, there was this poor guy that was found stabbed and he eventually died of his wounds in Punggol Field.
Oh dear.
Right? And even his family is wondering how that happened, because all he did was gone downstairs for a run, right? So all these things have been it seems like it's all coming to a point where there's been some violence has come up. So, it seems that way, right? So what are your guys' thoughts on all this? Nerves are being frayed? Or is this all these are like...
During a circuit breaker, this seems to be
premeditated, right?
No, I mean, I think it seems normal, right? I mean, these things happen in Singapore, whether or not there's a circuit breaker situation or not.
In a day, Gilbert.
Yeah.
All in a day.
Was it one day?
On the 10th of May. Except for the Punggol Field thing, that was different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's things that happen a lot more spaced out usually. That sounds like several weeks worth of things happening all at one go.
Yeah.
I do think that there's a little bit of cabin fever behind all this, and what happened. I mean, in other countries, when the heat wave comes, people go berserk, right? And there's a little bit of that. I think we're just all stuck at home, and maybe they are sick of being at home, and they get out,
There was a report I read today.
They get out to no good because there's nothing else to do out there. The arcades are closed. There's nothing else. All the other ways you release your pent-out stress are gone. What are you going to do except turn on each other, right? If
there's something another you mentioned that about cabin fever. I read something today. There was this couple that were arrested. I don't know. No, wait. Maybe the wife only. And she's 39. Husband's not so much older. And they have a kid in the house. And the neighbors called the cops because there was screaming and yelling and there was sounds of violence going on in the house. And this was in Punggol as well. And they found a smashed ashtray. There was blood all over the wife's T-shirt. The man was bleeding. And the walls outside and inside the house filled with blood, walls, splattered with blood.
Yeah.
And she was arrested. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, they wrote that she was sent to IMH.
Look, I
so
think
cabin fever, I don't know,
Yeah. No, the manifestation of how this lockdown is going to ultimately work out, the psychological stress of being locked in or restrained movements is not even being seen yet. It's going to take a while because, like you correctly said, John, you have these young people stuck in a small apartment with grandparents, parents, siblings.
Yeah.
They want to just get out. And when they mean get out, they might be just looking at, we're just going to paint the town red. And maybe they feel that they are because everything is so silent and there aren't enough people around.
Well,
nobody's watching.
Maybe we should ask Gilbert to help us out in this for the next episode. What are the symptoms for cabin fever, for instance? Unless you know about it now.
I think that the situation in Singapore with this circuit breaker is so mild compared to what
It is
other
already
countries
so mild,
are going
yeah.
through. Philippines, for example, you're not allowed out. You're only allowed once a day, and only one person per household can go out once a day. You need to have a special
They
pass.
started earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, So in Singapore, if you are cooped up, you still can go out for a run. You can run out of the house 10 times a day. No one's going to check on you, But I think that the cabin fever here it's not cabin fever. I think that, these people who are doing this, there could be many different reasons for it. Maybe cabin fever is part of it. But I think it's absurd to say that, we're all locked into our homes. We're not. I mean, if I wanted to walk out after this show and go out and walk around the neighborhood, wearing a mask, that's fine. I want to.
You must bear in mind, right, Gilbert, that the thing about Singapore is it doesn't take a lot to set us off. Even 10% of anyone else's cabin fever is too much for us.
Yeah.
We're generally quite a cosseted.
That's what I was trying to drive at.
Society. You turn off the aircon, I freak out already.
Yeah, let me tell you, you're right. My AC went kaput on a Sunday night, and I was sweating buckets and losing weight while I was asleep, okay? Right? Cannot tahan. The next damn day, I was chasing after AC guys to come and, sort this out for me. And most of them are booked, and I got to make sure my condo management know that these guys are coming, blah, blah, blah. I tell you, I was praying so hard, please give me back my AC
the
tonight.
people who go out, for example, the people who go out and stab each other would do this whether or not there's a circuit breaker in effect. I think,
I mean, there's definitely a
we don't know the
story
facts behind each case, to be fair. We don't, okay?
Each of these cases has a story behind it. Some of them may have been things waiting to happen, and it just happens that it's less crowded now. So if I have to stab the guy, I'll stab it now before circuit breaker opens.
But
police are busy finding people $300, so they, I think that there are many.
That was Jonathan Lim, It was Jonathan Lim who said that,
Yes. But one thing that we have highlighted before in several of our episodes, right, is that there is something happening in many households that we may not be aware of because, our own homes, hopefully, thankfully might be doing all right. That the worst we suffer is the aircon goes kaput for a day and then we move on. But there are many other families who cannot stand the sight of each other, who spend the day getting away from each other, who count on going to work to sort of maintain their sanity. And now you're forced to face the parent-in-law, the sibling, the spouse that you wish you didn't have to live with. And that's always dangerous, right? Or the cases of domestic abuse, right, are still spiking, right? Aware has released an extra helpline, right, for domestic workers who need to reach out. Because who knows, right? Pressure from their bosses, who cannot leave the house either, who they can take it out on, right? So I think for all of us who are safe,
in the number of domestic cases,
that's a lot.
Since the start of
so I'm just saying for those of us who are safe at home and doing all right, don't assume that everything is well all around you, So be alert, look out, check out on the people around you, say hi to them as you pass them by, and if there are signs, reach out to them, offer help if you can. I think we can all do a little bit, to help alleviate other people's pressure, and let's just not be blind. Let's just not be blind to what's going on behind closed doors just because we are okay.
Correct. Don't be blind to the things you're not supposed to be blind to, but please, for goodness sake, be blind when somebody tries to grow ladies' fingers outside their door, okay? I mean, come on!
Maybe you should fill in the listeners about what this is about.
Yes, okay.
I mean, okay. I mean,
such a Chris,
talking about
such a Chris story. Okay, go.
Yeah. I mean, okay. There's this guy that was he grows
Vice
pants
correspondent.
outside. Oh gosh, this is not advice. This is about ladies' fingers, for Pete's sake. Now, okay, so
So was this. This was about ladies' fingers too.
Ladies' fingers.
Okay, so we're really going to
Right,
segue
yes.
our way into this topic now so easily, people. Ladies' fingers things. Huh? Okay, now,
Yes.
so this guy was literally, he was growing okra, right? Ladies' fingers outside his door in his flat, outside his flat. Okay, and
In the
someone,
corridor.
someone called the cops, and reported that he was growing weed, marijuana, ganja, whatever, things that can roll into a joint, outside his door. And cops came only to find out that he was actually growing ladies' fingers because he had UV lights, right, on top of it to help,
Right.
To help for faster growth for the plant.
Propagate, yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm losing my grammar here, man. Okay, so I mean, come on, keep your nosy parking noses away. I said parking noses away.
Parker.
Yeah, nosy Parker, but nosy parking. So nosy parking noses out of the way. And mind your business over the things that you should. For example, is what Jonathan said. If you hear about domestic violence happening in a house, your neighbors, call the cops, right? You see signs of your friends or neighbors around the neighborhood with bruises on them, call the cops, But for Pete's sake, don't make assumptions just because someone's growing plants outside and, having UV lights over them thinking they're growing joints or weed.
The sad thing here, right? I mean, the guy spoke about it, right? And in his statement, right, he actually said if the neighbor had just asked first before calling the cops, I would have given them the science lesson and taught them the difference between cannabis and okra, right?
Yeah.
So it is that sort of snitching mentality, right? As if there's going to be a reward for catching, the Breaking Bad dude or something, I mean...
It's
No need to
also
try to
so
be a hero.
silly because the guy was growing it in his corridor, If you wanted to grow marijuana in Singapore, you were stupid enough to try that. You do it in your bedroom with the window curtains drawn, not in the corridor. I think that you guys raised an important point, which is that this snitch mentality is very odious. There are people who are making this a full-time profession now. They see someone without a mask or with the mask half pulled down and they take photographs and they call police and all of that. But strangely enough, when serious things do happen, people are silent and they say they want to mind their own business. I've been doing research into this and I'm being shocked really at the epidemic of maid abuse in Singapore. We're talking about dozens and dozens of cases just last year of maids being horribly abused, this guy took a hammer and smashed his maid's teeth with a hammer.
Yes.
Poured boiling water, on the maid. Made the helper drink bleach, all horrible things. And living on top of each other as many people in Singapore do, I'm just wondering how is it possible for abuse like this or child abuse to take place without the neighbors knowing about it. And sometimes when the neighbors are asked about it, they say, oh, I heard the screaming, I heard the crying, but I don't want to get involved, I want to mind my own business. No, stopping abuse is everybody's business. So instead of being kepo about someone growing okra or ladies' fingers on their corridor, pay attention to serious cases that may be happening and do report them. I think that's so important. These things would not be happening in Singapore if people were basically paying more attention and reporting cases of abuse, because this is really happening. And I'm glad to see that the authorities are actually encouraging this, because they put up videos now basically showing, I think there's one that's running on TV right now, showing this family having dinner and hearing a child screaming next door. And this old lady is the only one that walks down the corridor to knock on the door. And you think what's going to happen? She's going to confront the guy. Instead, she hands the guy a plate of cakes that she baked, and she said, I wanted this for you and your boy. So she's subtly letting the guy know, I know you have a child and I can hear the child screaming. And the tagline underneath is, report child abuse, report abuse. I think that's important. So I'm glad to see the authorities know that this is a big enough problem that they're asking us to step into. So, please don't stay dumb and deaf and blind to cases of abuse, because they're very real. And they're not just few and far between, Maybe for another episode, we can talk more about this, but I've been shocked at how many cases of domestic and maid abuse there has been in Singapore. Really horrifying.
The point is, don't be a kepo about things you shouldn't be a kepo over. Yeah. Be a kepo over the things that you're supposed to mind, really. Because right is right and wrong is wrong. And if somebody is getting hurt, you are being an accomplice by shutting the hell up.
Yeah. Exactly.
I like this. I like that the idea of this ad. I wish I'd seen it, and I like this idea that perhaps there now becomes a sort of a code, right? To go next door and knock on their door with an offer of kueh is to say, my eyes are on you.
Yeah.
My eyes are on you. Whatever's going on in this house, neighbors care. All right. As you eat this cake, think about it. Before you abuse your child or abuse your maid again, we're listening. I think that's a good signal to send out to the perpetrators out there who are being abusive, right? So yes, everyone be vigilant, not about things being grown in corridors, but about the people near you who might need your help. Yeah, I think that's a good thing.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
Okay, remember we were talking about that guy that we all wish to be when we grow up, man, at 85 years old, and he went on his excursion. Well, there was a cute little excursion, right, Daisy? It just happened. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you about 2 excursions that took place, each very, very special. One, like you said, was our 85-year-old man who had this on his bucket list, and he went for his excursion. I'm not exactly certain of what happened there, but I do landed up with a fine of $300 for social distancing, not keeping social distancing. But there was another excursion taking place at the Singapore Zoo, and that 14 African penguins were just allowed to roam free in the zoo. They were let out of the enclosures and they were just allowed to roam around free because the zoo is closed for the first time, the Singapore Zoo, for the first time in its history. And my God, just the thought of just imagining them going on this excursion, all of them, and enjoying the facilities of the zoo.
Actually, Daisy, wasn't it the Singapore Zoo? Because I saw videos of that, but it was a zoo in other countries.
Chicago. It was an aquarium in Chicago who did it in March. But they only released one pair.
Wonderful.
They
released but in us, we had all the 14.
But Singapore did it as well.
So I just
7 times better.
I just wanted to say about, a saying which was by J.R.R. Tolkien, the person who wrote
Lord
Never heard of him.
Because he said, all those who wander do not get lost. So wander, don't worry, be happy. Huh?
19 guys who wandered and got lost and likely ended up walking like the 14 penguins thereafter.
So unless you are a penguin, don't wander too far. Not yet. Okay, not yet. Wait for your turn, right?
Yeah. But well, this is just a message for after the CB. It's a wanderland. Go wander, and all don't need to get lost. So I'm a bit scared that once we'll never get out of the CB mentality, and we might just get too scared to just go out into the beautiful world along, like how the penguins must be, but seeing these new sights all over. How fascinating, how lovely. I was really happy with it.
But how jealous must all the other animals be feeling?
I'm trying to keep my thoughts as clean as possible. Okay.
Is there a queue? When is my turn? As a flying lemur or whatever I am. When do I get to go and?
Well, there are a lot of animals you don't want them to be roaming around. I don't know if you guys saw just recently there were the otters who were going around and raiding some fish ponds, and there was just a report today. One of the former MediaCorp actresses, her koi pond was raided, and the otters ate all the fish in it. So, you know, that's nature, unfortunately.
Yeah,
because
Lord of the jungle,
can
man.
travel further now, right? Because there are less people. Yeah, so they're like all
Exactly.
over the place.
Hey,
Wow.
you see wild boars all over the place now as well, right?
Yes, wild boars.
Yeah, we
Yes.
only used to see them pull out the comb during the army days. Now you see them all over in Singapore and mainland.
That's good.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's like
anyway, on that note, I'd like to thank you guys all for watching and following us on another episode of this. As we go out there in the last couple of weeks of the CB, please do help us to make sure that the CB is ended by minimizing going out, by wearing your mask, by practicing safe hygiene so the community spread stays low, and we can get out of this together and be well. So stay safe and be safe and be kind.
Be kind. Yes. Be kind. And remember, may your choices always be about hope and not about fear. Right? So, bye-bye.
And I think today we talked a lot about neglected people who fall through the cracks, people who are perhaps out of sight and out of mind, even though they live right next door to you, you know. So I think while we are stuck at home, we have the opportunity to expand our minds, expand our hearts, and take some of these people into our thoughts. You know, if you can donate. If you can keep an ear open for other people's safety, do that. If you can offer a glass of water to the delivery guy, do that, because all of these acts of kindness matter so much more at a time like this.
Yes.
I like to say, keep your judgments right and sound. Yeah, let's not judge people for anything, whether they're a sex worker or whether they're growing plants with UV lights on top of them in their own homes. Yeah, let's not be so quick to judge. As a matter of fact, let's reach out a hand. Let's bake something for that neighbor who seemingly is growing some pot in his pots. Yeah, let's reach out to that sex worker. I mean, let's not judge this person, because I'm pretty sure there's a mom, there's a dad, there's a kid or kids, and they need to survive their families. So let's go beyond our little righteousness or sense of righteousness in that particular direction and take that in the right direction and reach out and help them. You can always call Project X, yeah? If you decide that, okay, let's go out there and let's really give out a helping hand. Yeah.
So everyone, reach out to each other, reach out. This is our gesture of the day, okay?
Reach out and subscribe and like.
Yes.
Thank you.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Cannot. Social distancing. Goodbye.
Virtual bye-bye. Virtual bye-bye. Virtual.
I-O-H-O. In our humble opinion.
Hey, shut up lah!